Man, that Far Side album, Lab Cabin, California, I can listen to that from start to finish, no skips, over and over
Yeah,
and over
man.
again. When I'm in my I want to get back into hip hop mode, I'm gonna throw on Lab Cabin, California, and just let it run. You
That's
know,
what's up.
for sure, for sure. All right, man. Geo, we can ready to have a little bit of fun before we wrap it up, man. Just like
Okay.
every other guest on this season, can't just let you hop up in the ride and hop up out the ride without having a little fun with you. Revisit your dream style. So it's time for another segment of Who Got It. Let's get it.
Still B-boy.
All right, Gio, I'm calling this the regional rap version of Who
Okay.
Got It. We've been talking a lot about rap, in the four regions: the West Coast, East Coast, Dirty South, and the Midwest are the regions that I'm labeling. So this is the regional rap version of Who Got It, and here's how it goes. Basically, we just need to know who got it between those four areas. I got six topics for you. You can go as deep or as shallow with your responses as you choose to. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, who got it between the West Coast, East Coast, the South, or the Midwest? Which region do you feel is most responsible, or which region do you feel is responsible for the most iconic rap albums collectively?
Oh, East Coast. East
Definitely
Coast. I
East
mean,
Coast.
only because of the foundation and a lot of what formed everybody or informed everybody's knowledge and understanding what hip hop was began there. I mean, again, you do have people on the West Coast, your Ice T's that were early on. I mean, Ice T's in Breaking, right? He's in,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, but I mean, people swear Notorious Big is the greatest rapper of all time. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily agree with it. It's a conversation for another day.
For
You have
sure.
your Wu Tangs, you have your Tribe Called Quest, you have your Run DMCs, you have Curtis Blow, you have Houdini, you have uh, Slick Rick, even though he's technically a transplant from England, but
Yeah.
still, you know,
He gets lumped in
uh,
that East Coast bracket for sure.
KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions, and Brand Nubian,
Brand
Gangstar,
Nubian. Bro, you throwing out some
it's
names now.
man, I mean, that's the thing, man. Like for me, these are the things that taught me about things that I wouldn't learn in school. Your Brand Nubians, your X Clans, your Public Enemies,
Hmm.
like, so for me, and it may be a slight bias because that was heavily what I was influenced by more than anything else because of my nature of artistry. I wasn't rapping like a lot of the California or Bay Area artists were at the time, even when I was first starting, even before hearing Dell and Souls and Hyro and Farside, because again, I started to write 88, 89, you
Hmm.
know, I had to go with what was there and what was accessible to me, and these were the artists. So I think ultimately the East Coast would be the one that had the most artists, EPMD, uh, because you got to think
Bro.
about all these splinters that come from these other, all these entities,
Hmm.
and you do have your NWAs who then the Ruthless family, and then what then became Death Row and all these things, but a lot of that, I mean, Ice Cube, for example, his first group, CIA, basically
Hmm.
sounded like the Beastie Boys if you hear them. And he'll tell
Hmm.
you that that's what they were inspired by,
Yeah,
like that era of hip hop. So I mean, I think for me, my answer would be East Coast.
for sure. I 100% agree with that one. I would say East Coast is the most responsible for the most iconic albums collectively. There's a lot of iconic albums from each region, but if you were to say, the most iconic artists and albums that really impacted the culture, that still have relevance to this day, and were inspirations for many other artists around the country and all these other
Hmm.
regions, definitely was the East Coast for sure. All right. Next one. Who got it? West Coast, East Coast, Dirty South, or the Midwest? Which region do you identify as the most diverse region as far as rap careers go?
that's a toss up because it could. I mean, because it again, it's gonna be primarily East Coast, just because you did have the diversity as far as what everybody else drew their inspirations from. Because East Coast is Philly, New York, New Jersey.
Jersey.
So like Schoolie D, right? Inspired gangster rap,
Hmm.
you know? So I mean, Native Tongues, Hit Squad, Wu-Tang,
Talking about that,
uh, things like Special Ed, the Juice Crew, like,
bruh.
but then, you know, on the West, when you get into the late 80s, early 90s, you could say the same thing. You have your Too Shorts and your Clicks and your Dangerous Crews, and even out of like Oakland slash LA, there was an underground crew called the Living Legends, which had a group called Mystic Journeyman and Murs and the Grouch and things like that. And then in LA, you had the Liquid Crew, which was the Alcoholics and Defari and Exhibit and, things like that. So, I mean,
Jurassic
East
Five.
Coast, East Coast. Oh, Boot Camp Click on East Coast. Forgot about them too. Uh, East Coast, but I can't say that West Coast isn't inching right behind them.
Close second.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that one as well. East Coast definitely is extremely diverse in the different styles and influences, like you said, with Schoolie D influencing gangster rap. So we got the heavy influence of gangster rap, you know, coming from California, but most of those guys were influenced by Schoolie D first,
I mean,
and
6 in the Morning was based off PSK by Schoolie D.
yeah, yeah,
So I
sure
mean,
was. Sure was. And I've heard Cube and them mention it. I've heard Cube mention it, Chuck D and Public Enemy was a heavy influence of his.
oh yeah,
So for sure. But you're right. I mean, you had a diverse group of in the West Coast is a close second because there was a lot, East Coast was a lot of sample based hip hop, whereas the West Coast had a lot of funk and real
musicality, yeah, for sure.
musicality. I mean, dudes really playing the bass guitar in the studio sessions for real. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? Some of them even
DJ
playing the
Quick and his crew,
for
jeez,
sure. Some of them even
yeah,
playing the drums for real in their studio sessions, as opposed to using drum machines or adding drums as an accent, background accent.
right.
And then, like you said, all the different diversity of groups there, even up to, you know, we talk about West Coast, you mentioned him earlier, Sir Mix a Lot, and
Right.
that group, and he created a different style and a different sound and a different focus on hip hop that we weren't really talking about back then. Like he was embracing like my hoopty, he embracing like
Right.
everybody's flashing their cars, and he like I'm in a hoopty, bro, and I'm
Right.
proud of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's dope. All right, next one. Which region, East Coast, West Coast, the South, or the Midwest, which region would you choose as being the most responsible for the growth of the female rap sector?
East Coast.
You got to go there. I mean, some of these are just like, I ain't have too many other options,
I
but
mean, from Shaw Rock, Roxanne Shante, Salt and Pepper, MC Light, Queen Latifah, Raw Digga, Lauryn Hill, like
he running them. Bahamadia.
Bahamadia, yeah, Bahamadia. Uh, I know I'm forgetting somebody, but
No,
yeah, I
you
mean,
got the majority of what's her name? Moni Love.
Moni Love, yeah, another transplant, but
Yeah.
associated with New
Still
York
gets
by
still gets
proxy.
lumped in.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I'm over here looking at cassettes over here, by the way. That's why I keep
You
looking
got
at
a
it over
ton of you
here.
like, man, yeah.
Like,
That's
who
all
am
you
I
got
forgetting?
cheat sheet over there.
Right.
You
But
got
I
a
mean,
cheat sheet.
because like I can't. and that it may be due to my lack of knowledge. Like as far as like the South and the Midwest, I don't really know too many of them per se.
Hmm.
Um, and then California, yes, you got your Sugar Teas, your Marvelous, your Mystics. Uh,
But even
uh,
even Lady Array, she's East Coast. She just was rap
yeah,
with the West Coast, but
with the
she's a
Death
East.
Row,
She
exactly.
from
She's from
Virginia, I
Virginia.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Virginia. Yep. So I mean, I hate that it sounds so biased and slanted as far as these responses go, but I can't I can't misstate the facts based on what I know. And so
yeah,
I again I'd have to say East Coast, and then the West again will probably be the second to that, just based
yeah,
on my knowledge of female MCs and artists.
yeah.
I know there's people like I don't even, is Rhapsody from the South?
Rhapsody, she's from I think Virginia as well,
Oh,
or
okay,
North
so
Carolina. She's
yeah.
from either one of
North
the Carolinas or Virginia. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
North Carolina, I think you're right. Yeah, so
Hmm.
that's one in however many. I don't know if there's anybody from like Texas that I can think of as far as a female rapper
Only
goes.
one is what's her name? Megan.
Oh, Megan the
Megan Thee
Stallion.
Stallion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from
Yeah.
Tennessee, Memphis, you got Glorilla.
Oh yeah, Glorilla. But I mean even like someone like Cardi B, that's New York, you know what I'm saying? So it's
Exactly.
like you
And
have
they were those girls we just mentioned were
oh,
I
Little
think were
Kim,
influenced
Foxy Brown. I forgot. There
straight
we
up
go.
East Coast.
You know?
Yeah,
So I
it's
mean,
stamped. It's
yeah,
stamped now. It's East Coast. What it does, I love this part because it shows your depth of knowledge for sure. You mentioned some names that I guarantee you half the people watching this they're like, who is he talking about? You
I don't
know,
know where Saw Rock is from either.
I thought she was from Queen. I thought she was from New York.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. She's dope as hell though.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of the originators for the originator, as far as I know. Like she was
oh,
around at the beginning.
Not Shaw Rock.
Oh, you who you?
There's a rapper named Saroc. Look
Oh,
her
okay,
up.
somebody
Look
different. I
her
got
up,
to look
bro.
her up.
She's dope.
You ever
Like
heard
dope.
what's her name? Is it Terrell Wack? What's her name?
Oh, Tierra Whack. She's hella
Tierra
tight.
Wack. Tierra
She's
Wack is
tight.
tight.
She's
Yeah.
kind of like a Missy, man. She makes some really creative music, man. She
Hmm.
makes really creative music. I
She
like
does.
her a lot.
She
Yeah.
does. She got a new single out with Jill Scott right now. She got Jill
Yeah.
Scott rapping. I think that's pretty dope. But all right, we on East Coast is running it so far in this hip hop conversation. So we got a couple more, and we're gonna see if any other regions could put a mark on the
Creep in.
board.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. East Coast, West Coast, Dirty South, or Midwest. If money was no object and you could start your rap career all over again in any region of the country, where would you go and why? I know that's like a sticky question, but it's not. You
Yeah,
don't got to
because it's
disrespect your roots for it. It's just
no,
what it
I
is.
mean it's because it could work two ways. I mean, it depends on what you mean if money's no object. Because if that's the case, I could stay where I am and then hire the people that I want to do the production for me here and still
Hmm.
retain my sense of self as far as where I come from.
Okay, let's take money no object. Let's take money as no object out. The time arises where you have an opportunity to choose where you want to start your career at the and you're 18, 19 years old as a young MC GEO. You know, where
I
are
would
you
probably
packing up and
stay.
leaving going somewhere, or are you staying in the Bay?
No, I'd probably stay in the Bay. I think it really did. Granted, my inspirations came from where they came from, but I think Vallejo as a whole and growing up in the Bay kind of made me who I was as a person to even allow myself to be an MC.
Hmm.
Um, it because I don't know who I would be if I had grown up in New York in the late 80s, early 90s as an MC, and there's so much competition. Whereas being kind of like you said, not saying this myself, not putting myself in some kind of like category, but being a one of one at the time that we were coming up, as far as the people that we knew, were of this persuasion and rapping the way that we, there weren't many people that were kind of speaking in the ways that we were speaking and doing the things that we were doing. So, West Coast, Bay Area would be my answer to that one.
For sure, for sure. The West Coast got one on the board, y'all. I had to rearrange the words to get it there, but
Because
rearrange
I
the
would have
question.
cheated, like I would have been like, "Yep, I'm hiring DJ Premier, and I'm hiring."
For
Yeah, no,
sure.
no, yeah.
The RZA, man, I'm man, for sure, man. All right. Last one. Last one. East Coast, West Coast, Dirty South, or Midwest. Of all the regions, which one do you think has had the greatest positive impact on the growth and expansion of rap?
That's a toss up too between the East Coast and the West Coast because I think, and that isn't to discredit the Midwest
What
and
about the
especially
South got something to say?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Um, there was a change. There was a change in the reach when you had artists like Outkast and Goody Mob and things like that, and Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Face.
um, but I think that the East Coast and the West Coast really, for example, I was waiting for you to ask me a question. Who you think did the most for independent music and making it, the hustle aspect of it? Like the West Coast informed the industry that you could do this on your own without a major label behind you. And that
Mm-hmm.
includes Master P, even though he took it to New Orleans to do it, started in Richmond in a record
Sure
store.
did. Sure
You know
did.
what I'm saying? Too Short, and the 75 Girls, and then, make and E40 making Jive come to him rather than he go to Jive. He
Mm-hmm.
could have done it all just on Sick With It if you really think about it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So there's ways to look at it, but I think the East Coast was the first to create the reach, and I think the West Coast was the one to expand it because, like you said, the Chronic, that was a major turning point in hip hop. Now, whether you think it was for the best, for the worst, or indifferent, that's a matter of taste and how you feel about the impact that it had. Because for me, I respect it, I acknowledge it, but I think that made everybody want to start being gangster and rap
True.
harder and be more one to two lanes as opposed to having several variety of people doing things. That's why when you would look at from the LA area, the far side, and those dudes are literally from South Central,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then like the Alcoholics, it was such a breath of fresh air because these are people coming from that same environment, but they weren't rapping or making music that was the same as the Chronic or above, Dr. Dre, above the law. I
Yep.
mean, and shout out to the DOC, even though he's from Texas, affiliated
DOC.
with Death Row
West
and
Coast.
Ruthless,
Heavily,
West
yeah.
Coast. You know what I'm saying? So I think East Coast created the reach and West Coast expanded the reach.
Agree, for sure, for sure. And that's I'm glad that you brought that up about the independence, the fact that the West Coast is heavily responsible for making the independent rap game a mountain to put a flag upon and say, hey, we started this, y'all started the genre, but y'all all got the game from here. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Of how to take
right.
it to the next level from here. So very interesting, man. I asked those questions. I did this segment because we love to talk about hip hop. I just wanted to dive back into your brain a little bit more about your depth of knowledge. If y'all don't know, if y'all haven't figured it out by now, that this dude is not just reading off of a page. He don't have a teleprompter in front of him. He's not looking at no notes on his phone. I mean, he's throwing out some names of some artists, some groups, some subject matters in the region, in different regions that unless you know hip hop, unless you grew up with hip hop, unless you studied the rap game, you don't really know. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you being real to the culture. I appreciate you being expressive about your depth of knowledge and your love for music from all of the regions, because it's, you wouldn't be able to name these names if they didn't impact you in some kind of way.
Right.
So that's pretty dope, man. I appreciate you for that, man. You survived this round, my brother. Thank you very much for taking that ride and that journey with us on this segment of Who Got It, the Rap Regional Edition.